Alright, for this first part of the video, I am going to say how I fell into this Sika hunting scam from DOA Outfitters. I played this video game on PlayStation 2 when I was a kid, and it was like a Cabela's hunting game. I can't remember what it was called right now, but you hunt places in America that have, well, North America, that are exactly how they are. So the further you go in the game, the more stuff you get to hunt. One was the Sika deer with a muzzleloader on Taylor's Island, Maryland, and so I looked it up and found out that there are Sika deer on Taylor Island in Maryland, and so I had talked about, like, one of the things I wanted to hunt. I wanted to make uh, like some videos for my YouTube, and I hadn't used my YouTube in a long time, and I planned this hunt was gonna like start my YouTube back up again. And I was married at the time. I'm divorced now, uh, but my wife at the time was telling me that I should go do that because I was like throwing a fit, like, no wait, not like a temper tantrum or anything, but was just astounded, like, wow, they show on Meat Hunters or Meat Eaters, whatever that show is called, that they're hunting Sika, and I was like, man, now everybody's gonna do that. And that was like one hunting trip I wanted to take in my life that I knew wasn't well known by a lot of people, and so it was like a goal of mine to eventually go and do that. And she was like, well, since it's on there and everybody's going to do it now, maybe you should, just try it now. And so I decided to try to find a place to do it, like the cheapest way I can. I don't try to spend a bunch of money to go hunting. And I looked up a few places and it looked like it'd be really hard and difficult to get in, not ever doing it before, knowing how to navigate through frag and swamps and marshes or whatever, all that stuff. It's out of my element. And with private land, you're allowed to bait too. So I figured going to Outfitter was the best thing. She agreed with that. So I then called around, looked around online. Well, I sent emails out to a few, and a couple got back with me like they couldn't. One doesn't take a lot of people each year, so they're booked up. The other person was booked up. One of them never even got back with me, and then one got back with me, DOA Outfitters Incorporated, saying that they can get me in for the muzzleloader hunt, and just give him a call. He wants you to call right off. When I was working, so I had to call him later in the afternoon after work. Then I talked to him a little bit. This was back in February 2020, and I told him, how I thought that a lot of people would be trying to do this now since that TV show showed it. And he said, yeah, that's actually happened. There's a lot of his business has increased like tenfold. And I was like, well, how is it taking all these people? How aren't you booked up then? Because these other ones said they're booked up. And he shrugged that off, saying, oh, they just don't like taking that many people a year. They just only take a few every year, and that's just how they are. And he's telling me that he's got bunches of places, so it's fine. He's always going to have enough spots for everybody. And so I was like, okay, what's the details on it? He says, $750 down deposit and a check, and that's non-refundable. And then when you arrive for your hunt, you pay the rest, $750 down in cash. It's only $1,500, and you get to hunt a hind and a stag. So I thought that was okay. And then I wanted to do the muzzleloader hunt, just like in that video game. Thought that would be cool to do that. And then so he set me up for that, and that's how it got started. He says I send a deposit. A few days later, he gets I get back with him through an email, and then he says that the only thing that's stopping me now is to get the hunting license number and to bring a hard copy of that with me. And then he had like a liability waiver form as well, and at that time, and this was February 2020, so COVID-19 wasn't a big thing back then. So that was where we were at, and then I don't talk to him for a while because he said if I needed any help with it or any questions to get a hold of him again. So it's October now, and the hunt is at the end of October. He told me that these licenses go on sale in the last email that later on during the summer or whatever. So I didn't, and then to get a hold of him if I had any questions. So in October, I get on the DNR website to buy one of these online, and it says that they only have available 2021 year hunting licenses. So I sent him a email and ask him if he knows why it says 2021, and he gets back with me saying that it's not his problem. So he's like rude any chance he gets. And then he says you'd have to talk to the DNR about that. And that blew me away because he had already cashed my check and spent the 750, and he's not having good customer service. He's not helping me at all. Or if you're not able to help somebody, you could go about it saying it in a better way than that. Especially at that time, now it's October, and COVID has been rampant everywhere, and everything's chaotic. Like I remember they shut us down a whole month at work in April. The whole month was gone. We didn't work. So so at that point, I was questioning after he emailed me that to even. I emailed him back saying, "Don't get rude with me, buddy," and I did as well. Contact DNR. Because I want to know, and that's what I'm supposed to do. But I figured he could get back with me sooner because he's not DNR, who's got a bunch of emails and a bunch of stuff to do every day, and he's just sitting there. He could maybe know the answer to that simple question. So instead of giving me a hard time about it and then telling me to, so I told him, don't get rude with me, and I did send an email to the DNR as well. And then after that, he sent me bizarre text. Some of it was about his uh, his condition. I think he said he had diabetes or asthma, and it affected his, uh, and COVID is affecting him. And so it's things I didn't even. It was bizarre things to bring up that had nothing to do with anything, and so I just ignored it. And then he said to give him a call. So anyway, I give him a call later on when I get home from work. I call him because he wants to talk on the phone. He wants to just talk on the phone. He's realizing now that emailing me all the time is making him look like he's bizarre, and so he wants to be more personable too, to try to make you not question things. So when he writes, he doesn't type things very well. He seems like he's on something, like he's snorting pixie sticks up his nose. So he wants to talk on the phone because he talks really well. Like he tries to be convincing. He's very conniving, and I had to deal with my ex-wife being like this, so I don't fall for people trying to like smooth talk things over with me that well. They can just be their way and I'll just be my way. I really don't care at this point in time. Then I didn't care at that point in time for anything. And so, so I tell him, I'm edgy because everybody's been really rude and everything. And I don't like people being rude to me and all that. And, like I even had people at the grocery store trying to smash their carts in me. It was a crazy time. And then, so I get off work, I go to the grocery store. I have him email me a bunch of bizarre stuff and being rude. I go to the grocery store and people are acting like lunatics and ramming their carts, telling me like that I'm rude because they come out of nowhere with their cart and hit me, uh, and telling me to f off and stuff. When I don't even know what's going. I just got off of work. I'm tired. I want to go home. So every day it was like that. Every day it was always somebody being crazy, and that's just how 2020 is or was. But so I tell him all this on the phone. I tell him I had to deal with that. I'm going through a divorce and all that stuff, and then so he tries to smooth things over. He asked me for what was the name on the check. I give him the name on the check, and he says, "Hold on, that he's got to look for it." And later on, I found out when everybody goes there that I paid the deposit back in February, and they had done it like just a month before, like in September, most of them. But uh, that comes into play because right now he's got me on the phone after I'm off work, and he's telling me the details about things that changed with COVID, that I have to do a COVID waiver release form, and he emails that to me, so I print that off and get that to fill out, so I have that with the liability waiver form as well, and my copy of my hunting license to all bring with me. And then we set up the time for me to go to Maryland on a Wednesday evening because it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday is their hunting season, right? I don't know. It was only 3 days long, and yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Is it Sunday too? I don't remember. It was only for 3 days, so I wanted to go Wednesday after work because it's 13 hours. If I would have got there, be, like Thursday, Thursday to show up because he said the hunt will be on Thursday. When you arrive, obviously have to do the afternoon hunt because you wouldn't be there in the morning to hunt. So, because he had groups coming and going because of COVID, he has to have. So in the morning, he has to like desanitize, like or sanitize things, disinfects stuff at his garage, lodge, his lodge cabin thing that sits beside his house. It's a garage, but he calls it a lodge. So he says that's why it's going to be in the morning or in the evening because in the morning he's got to do all that. So he said, but he can try to get something arranged for me to show up Wednesday after everybody should be out of there by Wednesday evening. So if I show up late Wednesday, which I end up doing, so that was it. I talked to him, and then I'm on my way. I got the 2020 hunting license shows up as 2021 on their site because they only specify by when that season ends. They don't. In Indiana, it's completely different. It says the hunting season when it starts and usually when it ends on the license, and this just says 2021 because that's when that season goes out. So I had cleared that up with the DNR as well. They got back with me um, when I was at work when this guy Joe Watson was rambling. He rambled off some emails and then made himself look worse. But So I figured, I printed off my license, bought it, printed it off, and then I headed out really early Wednesday morning. It took me like 13 hours to get there, and then I show up at uh, this long driveway leading back into some pine tree area. I don't. It didn't really seem like a hunting lodge area or whatever. And then I see a house and like a little parking spot by a garage, and I parked there, and that ended up being the you know the hunting lodge that he had talked about. Okay, so where did I leave off at? I am trying to edit these segments while I'm recording it, and when it's uploading on the computer, doing all that stuff. But I managed to find that video game I was talking about and how I knew Sika deer existed in the United States. And then I put it on this TV back here. I found my PlayStation 2. I got all that out. My computer froze a few times doing this. Is whatever. Alright, so we left off me going to getting in my truck. So my truck was a little S10 when I contacted Joe on the phone because he wanted me to call after him telling me it wasn't his problem. And then we figured out the time, the COVID waiver form. I asked him during that phone conversation, well, first we talked about my check because that was a long part of the phone conversation was him finding my check and finding me on his calendar, he said. And then he said that he found it all. And then we went from there with setting up when I could show up Wednesday afternoon. Since it was such a long drive, I wouldn't want to show up after driving 13 hours to go hunting because I would be tired. I'd fall asleep. Logically, you're not going to stay up for 24 hours or anything like that. If you're trying to hunt, you want to be alert as possible. So go through the COVID waiver form, and then the sleeping arrangements because he had somehow forgot about me putting money down in advance of everybody else, and then booked everybody else in this lodge that he, in February 2020, said that I would be in. So because COVID had to do social distancing, these people, this lodge isn't something you can social distance in. It's a little garage. My garage is bigger than his lodge thing, and his was a garage that was converted. What the hell is that? There's a fly in here. All right. All right, and then the smooth over thing. I let him know how everybody's been rude to me and all that, and the instance of even that day, earlier that day before I talked to him, the people in the store, this one woman in particular, acting like I was the problem because she was trying to, I don't know, she thought that I was going at whatever she wanted to get to buy because some products were scarce at that time. But I don't know. I got that face where people think that they can just F with me, which is never a good idea. I take a lot of stuff, but I don't know why people think that they can mess with me. Anyway, okay, so I tell them how my truck, I'm dealing with people being rude constantly. And bad things happened to me. I just got divorced, and then my truck just went out right before that I supposed to be going on this hunt, and now I'm using an S10 that's 23 years old. So I asked him, since we start talking further in this and get everything sorted out, I asked him if I should bring my self climber because I'm going to be packing all my stuff into an S10, and if I don't have to take one thing that gives me some more room in my truck, and he says no, because I'm using a muzzle loader that I'll be fine. So I packed up my leafy suit, uh, taking what he said as, I can reach out and touch stuff with my muzzle loader, so I don't need to bring a self climber. It's just the hassle of carrying that around. So I just took it as that, and that I'll just bring my leafy suit. I didn't think that was a big deal, um, but it becomes a big deal. That part, him saying that. Now his website says that we're semi-guided our hunts. He shows us a general area, and you can bring a self climber, which means that you can go wherever you want and set up. That's how you take it, and because that's what that means. So it says you can bring a self climber, that permanent stands provided, ground blinds when feasible, and you basically hunt at your own risk. And they didn't even show boundary lines when I was there. So I just brought my leafy suit, thinking that it'd be a lot easier. So when I arrived, I had called him. I pulled up this drive that was like kind of sketchy, and then I see a house, and then a little garage. The garage. I park outside the garage, and I call him to let him know that I'm there, and he says he'll be out in a few minutes because he's eating supper, and so I don't really mind because I drove for 13 hours. I was just standing up, stretching and stuff, and super tired. And he comes out with a stack of checks. Now you don't see somebody just come out with a stack of checks, so I know something's up. That this is some guys that he's gonna. So I'm like, oh great, because he's getting ready to put on a show, and I knew it. It's like, why would you bring out the stack of checks? It's bizarre. And he takes them to my tailgate and opens up my tailgate to set the stuff on, but my tailgate had just broke. Like I kept having everything bad happen to me. As soon as I packed up my truck to leave, my my cables on both sides broke on the tailgate, and it goes against the bumper, so it's like that. It But anyway, that happened right when I was leaving, and then he just opens it up to prop these checks on like he's doing a magic show or something. Uh, and then at one point he forgets his phone on my tailgate on my truck too, which, well, he put it in the truck bed like and walked into his house. But so So he comes out and he has a stack of checks, and he can't find my check. What a surprise! He's pulling something over on me, um, and then he acts like he don't remember our conversation at all the day before, which was hours before. It was the night before, and I just don't respond to it because it's kind of awkward. He come out and he checked my temperature with a little radar thingy or whatever, temperature gun, sits down all these checks, and then starts going through them, asking the name on the check again, and then he says he can't find it, and so he goes back inside, and I'm like, what the F is going on? And he goes inside to try and find it. He comes out saying he can't find it, and he does this guise about me, like he does it to he comes out to show me all these checks just to prove that mine isn't in with the checks. He's trying to make it seem like there's no proof, though, because they should be with these checks, but they're not. It's not with these checks. So then he goes back inside to try to find it, but he's talking to a woman sitting in their dining area. I can hear him because I'm parked right outside their house. Right beside it is the garage, and I'm parked in front of the garage. And she's telling him things to say to me to try to refute me, saying that I did give you the check, you had already cashed it, so I don't know what to tell you because I didn't. If he can't find it, that's not my problem. And then, but no, he just making it look like that he can't find it because he was very rude to me, and he got my deposit, and then I felt like not even going because how bad things were getting and COVID-19, everybody being rude and stuff. But I had already gave him that $750 deposit, so I figured I might as well follow through with it. Anyway, I had some girlfriend at the time. She wanted me to stay and not go to, but I like not listening to women, so I went. Oh yeah, one time, so he come out. After say he was trying to find it, and he has to have a way of looking it up through my bank. And I let him know that I got divorced, and everybody knows. Usually everybody knows nowadays that if when you get divorced, your assets are split, and any accounts you had with each other are to be closed, and you guys are to take your money and your issues, become your own issues. So I tell him that bank account was closed. That's just what happens when you get divorced. And he when I tell him that account was closed months ago, he actually says that he thought that. He's like, oh, I thought so. Though he didn't remember our conversation, he said, when he first come out with his stack of checks and didn't know where the lost check is. I was like, well, we talked earlier and all this stuff, and that's why I'm here. You gave me the address saying that, all I need now was that license. And then we had that conversation about the license issue, the 2021 thing, and I was like, well, else why else would I be here? But he acts like he didn't really recall that, though it was just a few hours ago. And then now, when I'm retelling him, because during a conversation I told him that I was recently divorced, and all these other things keep going downhill. Now all of a sudden when I tell him that I'm divorced and the bank account was closed, he's like, oh yeah, I thought so. So how would you think so if you didn't remember ever talking to me? That means you do remember talking to me if you thought that bank account would be closed by now, because it's been a few months. And then so he goes back inside at that point and says that he's going to look on his online banking because he can't find the check anywhere. So I was like, well, I'm pretty sure. I'm really tired at that point. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was cashed. And that's when I got a hold of you after that, and I let you know that it was cashed. I that's when he sent me an email saying, "Oh, that will stop me now. Is I have to get the license number and bring a hard copy of the license, and it goes on sale in a couple months, blah blah." And then that was it. Didn't talk to him till October, till about the day before the hunt, really. So he goes online to look on his online banking, and he can't log in. He says that he keeps putting in the wrong password, and he gets locked out. So of course that happens. Just another way to not find out. And then every time he goes in, he's talking to some woman who's telling him what to say and what to do with me, because they don't want me there. and they don't know that I can hear him, obviously, because I'm parked in front of their garage next to their house. They shouldn't know that, but he said he put the wrong password in and is locked out now. So I tell him I told him, like I just kept saying the logical thing that I just didn't show up because he gave me the address and like, and I let him know, it was like, you told me all I need is the license number after he cashed the check back in February of 2020, and it was October 2020 is going on at this moment that I'm talking about. So he then says, well, that's just something I tell everyone. So he just tells everyone in general who wants to go hunting that now that we scheduled a day to hunt and you cash now, and I sent the check you cashed me, but he leaves out the part of cash and check, that now that's all that's stopping you is the license. So in everything he leaves out admitting to things. He talks around it really fast, and then he tries to get to talk to you on the phone, so there is no email or text evidence of him getting this check. So he will deny that he ever got it. So I'm really like, I don't know what to do. I'm tired, and he spent 2 hours doing this with me. I'm saying this like this back and forth thing. He did going in and looking for it and come back out. It was a whole thing to the point where he forgot his cell phone at one point on the back bed of my truck because the tailgate was broke. He put it up in my truck, and I had to tell him when he came out that because someone was trying to call it or something, and I was like, I hear your phone in the back of my truck, and he's like, oh, I wonder where I put that. So I did kind of think, because I was tired, maybe he is very forgetful because he just left his phone back there, but he just gets caught up in his own BS is what's going on. So he let me know there is no text or email that after I let him know his phone was in the back of my truck, and he went and got it, and he went inside again to try to look some more, and then he come out saying that there's no proof of me saying I got the check. He's like, there's no proof of me saying that I ever got that check. And I tell him he's right, because it doesn't say that he got a check. It just says that all that is stopping me now is that license number for the hunt. And at that point, I decided not to go through the conversation we had the night before that we just had, because he is now stating that it doesn't matter what was said or done. It doesn't matter that I cashed the check. It doesn't matter that you sent it to me already. I'm saying that I didn't get it and that I didn't cash it. And it doesn't matter the night before that I said that I found it, and we went through the process of what to do to go out there, this new COVID waiver form to sign and all that, and getting me there Wednesday night instead of Thursday morning. Because under his new COVID thing, he wants you to be there the day of. So when you're there the day of, you have to only hunt the afternoon. You can't hunt the first day in the morning if you show up there the first day, because he's got it clean because of COVID. But I needed to be there Wednesday evening, so he helped me out with that. So I thought he was being helpful, and I'm thinking he's really forgetful. At this point, two other people show up that'll be hunting in the morning. He immediately changes from being standoffish toward me to trying to be helpful. He tells me to hold on while he goes back inside. And he's going back out inside to get his stack of checks and run the same guys on the other two people that just showed up. He's going to keep this up, I realize. This whole guise of him looking through his stack and asking people's names. So he he asks the guy his name. He gets his name wrong a couple times while he's looking through the checks. Um, and then eventually finds that guy's check, though. So he's trying to make it seem like what he was doing with me is something that he normally does with everything. And they had their check in there and I didn't have mine. And he wouldn't misplace it or something. So he's just doing the same thing just because he knows that I would be paying attention. So he's acting like he does this with everybody. And, you know, I was married to someone who's conniving, so I know when they're being honest or not, or doing something that seems honest just to do it for show, not because they actually are. So he comes back out, goes with a stack of checks to them, checks their temperature, and jokes about it. Um, so he was being an a-hole to me and talking very standoffish to me the whole time. He was going back and forth inside and then coming back out trying to refute facts I was saying. And he wasn't really going in there to look or try to look for the check. He was going in there talking to the woman, trying to see what to say to dispute things that I was saying. And it wasn't working. So that went on for 2 hours, and by this time, other people are showing up. These two other guys showed up. So now he's got to try to act helpful to me so it doesn't look like a scene is being caused in front of these other two people. And he before they showed up, he was able to keep it just between me and him, and no one else would see this stuff going on and develop their own opinion about it, you know? But so he then tells me I can stay. He goes and talks to that woman real quick after talking that, and I can hear her telling him what to say, like, oh, well, okay, just let him stay then, and all that, blah, blah, blah. So he comes out saying the same thing that she just said, basically, saying I can say and we sort it out in the morning. And he seemed happy knowing that I was fast to agree that I can't prove in an email or a text that he got the check. And that I told him that I don't know if I can find out because the account was closed for months. It was closed months ago because of my divorce. You have when you get divorced, you have to separate your bank accounts that were joined and everything. So uh, he asked me if I had the rest of the cash on me, and I say yeah, and he said I can stay if I give it to him. So I give it to him. And then as soon as I give it to him, he says that I have to prove tomorrow before the hunt that he got the check and that he cashed the check. Or else I got to pay the deposit all over again. So one of those many times he was going inside and coming back out, messing with me, saying he was going to try to look for the check. But he was, really looking for more ways to mess with me. I had called my ex-wife to ask if she was sure that check was cashed. And like me, she had the same memory of it as me, that right after he received the check, he cashed it. And she used to work in a bank, so I asked her if there was a way to find out from the bank that he cashed it, even though that account has been closed for months. And she said that it's simple. You just call them in the morning and explain it to them. So I was quick to agree with his rationality at the moment to give me the cash. I mean, it's straight up cash, $750 in cash. Give it to me right now, and if you're able to prove in the morning that I spent that money already, then you can, and I know I could. So I agreed to it. I didn't make a big deal about like, yeah, I will, or, like it. I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds fair, And so now after 2 hours of being held up by him, I was now unpacking the same time the other guys just arrived. And I don't know if you imagine just sitting in your truck for 15 hours you know, but that that was hard on my back, and just drained me mentally. So inside, we look around. It has somewhat sketchy garage looking interior, like it's a garage that they tried to make look like a lodge. And there's three old Sika mounts on the walls, which somewhat seem to validate this might work out, you know. Um, and then on the coffee table, though, there was a couple old photo albums and of what looked like family hunts over 20 years ago. It was like looking at stick figure drawings. Something that stopped being real a long time ago, like now, um, in current times, all those pictures of stuff that might not even exist anymore, basically, or it's how kids draw stick figures is probably just like probably made up now, like it's not anything tangible anymore, anyway. So it take a lot of imagination to. It would take anybody a lot of imagination to think that this was actually 100% legit at that point, which proves to be ironic. He shows us a TV that on the website said that, you know, in the lodge they provide meals, but he can't because of COVID or whatever. It said there's a big screen TV, which is a little flat screen TV, about like the one behind me, about the same exact size. And on it only gets one channel, and on that channel was Bob Ross. So nothing else came in. It was like the most ironic thing, and I did not want to watch it. Like, more imagination stuff happening here. It's not real, but it seems like it's trying to be convincing. You know, it's just it was getting so bizarre for me. And oh, then in the bathroom, I started taking pictures of stuff, man, because this guy made me mad, and I figured I better get as much stuff for my YouTube channel now, so you can see every aspect, the good and the bad. Because normally I just try to show the what turns out to be the main point or focus or how things turn out and keep that, so I don't show like squirrel when I make hunting videos. I'm sitting saying I don't show the squirrels playing or acting crazy that looks funny. I just try to keep it to the point. I'm there to show a deer hunting video and stick to that, unless like my hunt's getting messed up by that one kid pointing a gun at me.
He's pointing a gun right at me.
And then that old folks retirement center, and then it kind of becomes that. But anyway, so this I just decided I need to see about everything with this guy. And in the bathroom there was there's a wardrobe cabinet. I open it up and there's just taking a look at around, trying to see what kind of devastating stuff I can find. And you know, if you look hard enough for something, sometimes you find it. So I looked in that wardrobe. I looked in that wardrobe cabinet, and there was pillows in there that looked like they'd been penetrated. Now, and then one had a stain. One had a stain all the way down it. So I tried taking a picture of that, and it was a yellow stain all the way down that pillow. And I was like, man, this will be good for my YouTube channel. And you know, and this guy he deserves that. So then in the morning, the next morning, he texts me at 8:30 saying that this wouldn't be the first time someone loses a check in the mail and thought that they had sent it. And I text him back that I gotta wait till 9:30 or 9 is when my bank opens. And then he's like, okay, understandable, or something to that effect. I'll post that text here if I hadn't shown it already. Um, then then I call my bank right at 9, and I keep calling them and calling them, until they answer the phone. I went outside to make sure I had good reception, so I'm talking out there on the phone and tell them the situation, ask if they can look into that, and they say yes, but if they do it, they'll charge me a track check fee. So I tell them that's okay, take it out of my bank account because I still bank with them, and they take that out. They then send me in an email the proof, the scanned check that he had cashed it. So then I text him that I have the proof, and he says he'll be in to look at it, and I text him back that I sent the proof in an email to him. Then he tells me, so before this, when he first texted me and I had to let him know my bank ain't open yet, and he told me that his bank verifies that they never got the check, and that this wouldn't have been the first time that somebody thought that they gave me a check but lost it in the mail. So, and I told him, wait, I gotta wait till my bank. So then I tell him I sent him the email. A little bit later, he texts me back saying that his bank now verifies that he received the check, and his bank didn't do that. My bank did that, and he's just repeating what I just told him. Because it was all a lie. He thought he was going to get another deposit from me. So he couldn't get rid of me. He couldn't scam me, make me go away. I already showed up. Um, he thought maybe he'd just get another deposit fee from me, and then now that didn't happen. So right after that, I figured that's it. It's resolved, and I'm gonna go out hunting. So I'm making myself something to eat, and another group of guys show up, and they he goes out to them, and he gets very rude with them and crass right off the bat. He doesn't want to talk to all of them. He only wants to talk to one of them. Uh, Very inhospitable and rude. So he tells this one guy in the group that he don't want to remember all their names or whatever, and that he's just going to give the outfitter or the guide his phone number or name to him. So he gives it to that one person, and then that person's supposed to get a hold of him for all of us. He doesn't tell, like, I'm inside, and he doesn't tell anyone else about this. This guy just showed up, so he's confused. Everybody's confused that they just got there, and having this guy be rude to him, and then telling him you had to deal with the guide to go out hunting. So he comes in. They're just all confused about that. And we still got time before this hunt's supposed to go on. And I asked this guy some of the question I asked the guys that showed up the night before, like what distance they sight their muzzleloader in, because I was suspicious on. They tell me all like 100 yards, and I tell them I sighted mine for 60 because it just seemed like I was going to be sure it was going to be close or far shots. But then after I asked him about bringing my self-climber, he said no, because I have a muzzleloader, that I figured maybe we're just going to be in a fixed tree stand, like a permanent type tree stand over bait pile. But if not, I still wanted to be mobile. And one of the guys in the group said, I asked the same thing if I could bring my self-climber, and he suggested that I don't say, he just flat out said no. Basically, he said, no, you don't need to because you're using muzzleloader. Said the same thing to that guy. So I was like, oh, well, I brought my leafy suit just in case. And so we're all thinking about being mobile, but, we're all pretty much level-headed and on the same page about everything. And this one guy, he says, I hope we're not all elbow to elbow, like packed in the same area. And it was kind of something said out loud, like we all were starting to think that way, but it's just you don't want to say it out loud. And so at that point, he's told us don't bring self climbers. So and then I brought my leafy suit, so I let them know that. And then that one guy mentions we might be hunting in the same area. That was my thought. That's why I was asking what they were doing, if they brought something. Then then that same guy who mentioned we'd be packed in the same spot, might be packed in the same spot, says that he was thinking about bringing a crossbow, but then decided not to. And I as well thought that too, bringing up a backup crossbow, just in case you don't know, and especially if we're going to be close to PayPal, then you definitely want crossbow. But I just couldn't fit everything in my S10, so I didn't. I don't know. He probably just didn't decide to bring it just because it'd just be extra stuff as well, and they came like carpooled together, so that whatever the lightest you can think of going, more practical. So I then I ask for that number from that who that Chris or whatever. I get it, and it has a playback ringtone from like the early 2000s, which you think that a teenage girl who's prepubescent, like 12 or 13, kind of playback ringtone from the 2000s, early 2000s. And I was like, there's no way a guide would, that must be a wrong number or something. And then I asked them for it again, and it's the same. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I get numbers and letters backwards, so I just made sure, and it was right. But then as soon as I'm checking if they gave me the right number, he calls, this Chris guy calls me, and I ask him to him, he says yes, and we get sorted out. I tell him how many people are there and about how many vehicles it is, because some carpooled, and he says that we're going to meet them. Um, and he gives me that'll send me a Google drop pin of the location, and we'll meet him there. Okay, so now we're getting to the part of the actual hunt that took place that um, didn't go as planned. But first, I forgot to mention in the previous part that Joe gives one of the guys that just arrived that morning to go out in the afternoon the phone number for Chris. And he says one thing that's that was very like not communicated well, just like Chris, the guide, and how we're going to meet him. So we all didn't really know if we were meeting Chris there, or to call him, let him know we're all ready to go, or if we're calling him to find out to meet him somewhere or meet us there. It was very vague, and um, Joe just like took their money and stuff and was going inside, and he doesn't do anything else but take people's money, and uh, that's pretty much it. He doesn't care what goes on after that. But he mentions to one of them, and they tell us in the lodge, the garage thing, that that Joe told him that they're going to be hunting it only evenings, after he got everybody's money now, and everybody showed up, and he's collected the money from the last group that he knows is arriving for this muzzleloader hunt. He then says we're only going to be hunting evenings every day because the deer don't move in the morning. Now this is a scam. So you just paid for the muzzleloader season, to hunt all of muzzleloader season, because it's only a few days long, and so you're expecting to get full days, the full muzzleloader season, except for the first day. He had told me on the phone, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that the first day they don't hunt in the morning because everybody's showing up. So the first day is just evening hunt, and then after that you have your regular hunts. But then he changed it to telling this guy out there a conflicting thing that he had told me on the phone. But he had already, when he said he lost my check and stuff, that he never talked to me before in his life, though we had just talked the night before. So he just denies and denies and denies, and it's uh, hard to talk to somebody, or you don't even want to, when they know what the truth is and they're just denying it. Tells you that they're just trying to scam you, and don't even bother with having a conversation with them at that point. But so he comes inside, and we're all confused at what he really meant by the evening hunts. So I tell him, well, he told me differently. He said that we're only hunting in the evening for the first day after everybody arrives for this muzzleloader hunt that's coming in for it, and then after that, we're out hunting, because that's what I paid for, was to hunt all of muzzleloader season, full days. And then the guys that showed up right after I did the night before thought the same thing that I did. And then these guys also had thought that way too, but were just told differently. So we're all confused at he just took all of our money, full deposits, and we're getting half of what we paid for. And later we find out that this was because he has other hunters that are coming in the mornings. He tells them, so right when we're getting on our way, he comes out to see if we're heading out. And we want to clarify this with him. So one of the guys asks him, because he's coming out to see if we're all leaving. It's got me suspicious that maybe he's going to look through our vehicles and try to steal stuff or something, because he wants all of a sudden know when we're leaving, or if we're about ready to head out. And one of the guys asked him to clarify about this hunting only the afternoons, and it's not just this one day that we're just hunting afternoon, because we all are here now, showed up for it, so it's easier on the guide or whatever, that we're all go out at the same time after all of us have arrived, which would make sense for your first day. And then he's like, "Oh no, it's because you'll blow out the deer if you go in there in the morning. You're not gonna be able to walk in the morning without them seeing you and spooking." But then they leave out of there in the morning and then come back in the evening. So if you get there in the afternoon, and when they come back to the bait piles, then you won't spook them and you'll get a good chance on them. So we're all like dumbfounded that why did he have us pay for full days of hunting, the full season, and tell us this only after he's collected everybody's money, and it's non-refundable too, and it's all in cash, so you can't prove how much you gave him at that point, because he goes inside and throws it all around and swims in the cash or whatever he does with it. So he won't know. He doesn't give you no receipt at all for that he's got the 754. And that's what I thought was strange when I gave him my 750 cash the night before, and he said it's fine that I stay there, but if I can't prove that he spent my money, then I have to pay him that money again, which was nuts. But when I handed him the cash, I thought he was going to give me some type of slip where we both sign our names to confirm that, he got the cash from me, because it was cash, and we're already having such a problem with him not knowing that he got my check and spent it. But you want like a solid paper trail to confirm this, and you figure a check would be that way, but he's figuring that he can scam people out of their, if he's using checks as well. And then fall back always on, well, the deposit's not refundable, so once it's in my hand, I can say I never got it or whatever I want. But so that just puts a bad mood on all of us, and is unsettling. And like I said, we talked that over. We talked about what range we sighted our muzzleloaders, why we didn't bring a self-climber, because Joe told us not to, so I brought a leafy suit. One guy was going to bring a crossbow, I was going to too, but then we both didn't. And we're all just like wondering what's next. And the guy then said, had said that it will probably have us all elbow to elbow in the same hunting like were shoved in a can of sardines or something. So anyway, now I had got a hold of Chris, the hunting guide. We go out to meet him. I pull in where the drop pin's at, and other guys, a couple of guys ended up there before me, and so they're sitting there. Then I'm sitting there. Then the other people start pulling in, showing up. Then this kid in a truck, a silver truck, he pulls in, or a gray truck, whatever. He pulls in and he's waiting for Chris as well, and I don't recognize him from our group of people. And I noticed he was on the property a little bit, off to the side, and then he like came over once he saw us all going over there. And then Chris shows up, and that kid I saw over on the other side of the property, he's part of Chris's. He's like his buddy for doing this guide thing. So he meets us all in the group, says, "Is this everybody? Because then we'll start heading back. Just follow me." And it's just straight back from where we were. We just drive down this little gravel patch road, like a little drive back there, and we're getting on all of our stuff and realizing we're all going to be packed in to the same hunting area, like the one guy said, and should have knocked on wood. So to me, I'm thinking about, I just want to get a deer. Like, that was one of the things that we discussed at that point when we realized we're only hunting half days. We said we should shoot or be lucky to get anything, and anything that walks by. Like, because first when we all get in there, we're expecting some guide service expectations where you can pass on smaller deer or a hind and try to get a good Sika deer. And we quickly realize we're going to be lucky to see anything walks by, just shoot it, go home, and that's the best situation. So that is my mindset, and we had just talked about that. Some of the other hunters and me talked about that in the garage. So that's my mindset. When I get there, it's all like, I just need to get something to walk by me. I don't care if it's a white-tailed deer. We have a tag for that as well, so it'll be fine. As any type of deer walks by that's in season, legal to shoot, just do it and go home. So that's my plan and my objective at this point in time: to hunt, get a deer, go home. And I'm putting on my stuff. Get my leafy suit, and this kid that showed up to help Chris do the guiding service takes a bunch of them way back to the back left side of this woods, and then he has a guy standing there waiting, and he tells me, "Hey, you come with me." Yeah, like he already has a special area just for me that's not in the same direction as everybody else. So I know at that point he's having me walk down the side of this pole barn that's dilapidated, that we parked in this abandoned old house, and behind it is a pole barn. We're just walking down from where we parked, and I'm really suspicious of why he's pulling me off to the side, going down like the side of this yard, and he gets in the woods with me, and it's like a four-wheeler trail. It starts to curve, and he's telling me, you gotta watch for these deer, they might be in here right now, and he's acting like it's a safari hunt or whatever, and I'm supposed to at any second shoot some animal that will pop out in front of me, though I can see the trucks where we parked, and we're just all talking and being loud and slamming doors and stuff. So I think he's joking around, like he's trying to be sarcastic about it, and I quickly realize he's not being sarcastic about any of this, because right when that trail starts to turn, there's a bait pile, and he's in a tree stand. He's like, "Look, the hogs are coming, or they're coming in like hogs, rooting through the stuff." That's a big one, referring to it as like a big Sika deer, like this size of a hog or something. and it looks just like squirrels. There was a bunch of squirrels I had already seen in that woods, bunches and bunches of them, and it looked like they were just digging spots in there, and he's trying to convince me that those are big deer, Sika deer tracks. But the main thing, which was off-putting, was when we were going to this place to meet Chris for the Sika hunt. It was we were parked. The garage and everything was in an area that had a bunch of marshland and like swampy area, and we drove completely out of that over a bridge into like which is woods. And on the website it says that you'll do woodland for whitetail deer and marshland for Sika. And we are literally off the side of a highway in some woods, and we're all packed in there together, like. So I have that fresh in my mind, and we walk in there, and there's no like swamp back there, nothing. It's just pine trees. It's Maryland is all pine trees, and they're not really big because they're all condensed or packed in like. So it's like I don't think I'm gonna see a Sika deer and stuff like this because the website even said that we're supposed to be in marshland for it. So they're going against what the website says right there. So that's what I paid for is what it said. That's what I'm buying. Marshland for Sika deer. That's where I'm supposed to be. That's why I asked if I should bring a self climber, and then I asked him if it's a joke. At that point, I was like, "Are you joking with me? We're just inside the woods right here. We parked right down there, and you can hear car doors slamming and people walking. Even you don't even need to hear them talk and know that there's people there, and no deer is gonna come down here or anywhere near that." So I'm like, is there any place else that I can be at all? I don't want to be here, and he's convinced that I'm going to get a deer there and that it's going to be fine, that there's going to be a Sika deer, and and I can't get it through to him that like they're not acting like I'm a customer. They're acting like you're going here because I said so. Go on the site, it says it's semi-guided, so they're going against everything the website says, and which is fraudulent at this point. They said that you're allowed to, they're supposed to show you the boundaries, and it's a semi-guided hunt, and you'll be, you bring a self climber, and they tell you not to bring a self climber, and then they tell you just to sit over a tree stand with a bait pile less than 20 yards in front of it, and that's it. And then there's no other spot to be. He says that the only other place that they have is like 50 miles away, and that it's too late now to go and figure that out, and maybe for tomorrow. And he's like, I wish I would have known this beforehand. I was like, we didn't even know where we were going to be beforehand. It seems like a joke. Like you guys, I was like, are you guys just messing with me? And in particular, I thought that they were just messing with me. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, you don't know why I would think that. And he's like, no, I have no idea why you would think that we're messing with you. So I was like, okay. So I was like, I guess I'll just try it out then. He's like, okay, I'll be back like at 7, a little after 7. I think it's at 7:20 or something. And then that's when we leave, get out of the tree stands or something like that. I was like, okay, whatever. And then he walks out and leaves me there. And it's like all he says is that he's not joking, that there will be a deer there, don't worry about it, and that he'll be back, once it gets dark, right after dark or whatever. So I'm sitting up there, and I'm in disbelief. I pull out my cell phone and even record how I'm just dumbfounded about the whole thing, how we just were out in an area that looked like it'd be good Sika habitat, and then we drive all the way out to some woods where the website says completely different. I'm just like, they're going against everything their own website says. So I'm pretty convinced that we all just got had at that point. And so I'm sitting up there figuring out how am I going to get a Sika deer when I'm in the parking lot, essentially. I'm just down from the parking lot, down from the parking lot and 40 yards in the woods. How am I going to get a Sika deer? So I just got out here in Maryland to this outfitter to do a Sika deer hunt. And we pull up, we meet this guy. He's supposed to take us to our spots, me and a few other guys hunting out here. He pulls me in different directions and everybody else says, hey, I'm going to take you over here. Walk down this trail right near where we parked, and there's a tree stand just inside the woods right there in front of a bait pile, and he says, this is where you're hunting. I asked him to go to a different spot because we literally just parked right there. We're all talking and everything. And they're basically like, this is the best we can do for you. I don't think I'm going to get anything. I told him I wanted a different spot, and he said the only other way I get a different spot is a couple other properties they got that are like 50 miles down the road. And it's too late to go to those spots. Well, they didn't tell us that they didn't give us any choices on which spots to hunt or what we thought would be best for us either. It seemed like they're putting me in a spot because they're just not wanting to deal with. Well, this is literally right down the road from where it's right off the side of a road. You can hear the highway. It's not even what you'd expect for a Sika deer hunt. We literally were not camped, but had a little cabin shack thing. And it was near what you'd think Sika deer would be in the swampy marsh. And then we drive completely out of that over a bridge and come here. Which you won't see a Sika deer during the day. They're out in the marsh. You want to try to be on the edge of a marsh. It's completely... Oh, and it's the muzzleloader season 2. It's October. The bait pile's 20 yards away, which they didn't tell us any of that on the phone. So most of the guys sighted in their rifles for 100 yards, because that's usually what you do with a muzzleloader. I sighted mine in for 60, just in case I had to take close shots. It's really disappointing. This is day 1 though, and it's hot for this time of year, so they can play that, say like you didn't see anything just because of the warm weather, but it's also their rut, so they should be moving a little bit more. This sucks. Okay, so I'm gonna go back for a second on the conversations we were having in that lodge before we headed out to meet Chris. I forgot to say, one of the things we were speculating on whether we should have brought a self climber, and I brought a leafy suit instead. We also talked about if anybody brought waders, because I didn't know what to expect, so I brought chest high waders. One guy said that he brought some too, and a lot of people didn't because they were told not to. And I never had asked. I asked about the tree stand issue, and he said not to bring a tree stand because I'm using muzzleloader. So I automatically assumed I need to bring waders in the leafy suit, and maybe I'm just going to be walking through some swampy area and just sitting there. So I didn't ask if I needed to bring waders because he already told me not to bring a self climber. So then I assumed that I might be walking around more. Obviously, if you're not bringing a tree stand to hunt in, to be more mobile, like their website suggests it's going to be half guided. It's not a full guide service. They just show you property boundaries, point you in the right direction basically, and you're left to hunt yourself. So Uh, I brought regular muck boots and that. Uh, some other people, I think one other guy brought waders. I don't know, but well, Joe doesn't. He's very vague on the whole thing, so you just don't know. So I just didn't want to end up being in a swamp or anything and not wishing I had waders. You don't really need a tree stand, you know, or self climber. But so I'm in the tree stand. I download that app and I get down and I start walking up this trail that's got ribbon on it. He has ribbon on these trails going up and down. Look like maybe it's where the deer are supposed to be going, or flagging tape, whatever you want to call it. So I'm in this ditch. He said the deer walk down to it from this pond. He says there's a pond up that way. So I start doing a zigzag pattern, looking at my onyx at the boundary lines, and I get to the pole barn area, which is right on the property line. So I stop and I'm looking around. I can't see this pond, but it shows that I'm supposed to be near it, within sight of it, across this property boundary. And I don't see it. I look towards the pole barn and I see that kid that was our part of our guide service that Chris had out there. He's messing around that pole barn. It looked like maybe a four-wheeler or something he was messing around with. And I look right at him for a little bit, and then I start walking away. I think he noticed me at that point, but I don't really care. I don't know this kid, and I walk back and I get up into the tree stand. So I'm sitting there a little while longer on my way back to the tree stand into that spot I was zigzagging in this ditch. I only found one set of tracks in that ditch, but I could see trails and bedding areas going really far out around the tree stand. So the wind is blowing down from the tree stand. So I walk down deeper into the woods, straight down from the tree stand. I was looking at the onyx and looking at how these deer are moving. They're moving around, like they know that tree stand's there, so they're moving around the back side of it, and then just getting more woods as a buffer in between. They want that bait pile that's there, but they don't want to. They want to be able to smell. So the wind's blowing down into the woods. I walk down into the woods, find a bunch of beds, a bunch of intersecting trails, and piles of poop that are hind and stag. So I sit right on them, and I'm not in that spot a couple minutes, and I get a call. Says from Chris. I answer it, and he says, "Hey," and says my name. I'm like, "Yeah, hey, what's up?" And then the call like drops. And the problem I had earlier with him when I first tried calling, it just like dropped. And then so he calls back and he's asking me, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm out here hunting. What are you talking about?" And he starts cussing and threatening me really quick and saying that I'm out of the tree stand. And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm still hunting the same spot." And he's like, "You can't be walking around the woods." I was like, "I haven't really left my area, my spot. I'm trying to get a deer, so I'm hunting the only way you can get a deer." And then he asked me what I'm doing, but then won't let me explain it. He just starts talking over me, well, cussing at me, which you can't say in the YouTube videos, all the stuff he was saying, but he was threatening great bodily harm to me and cussing at me and saying that I'm kicked out and that I need to get out of the woods because I was hunting in the woods. And I tried to tell him that don't make any sense because I paid to be out here hunting, and he doesn't care. He says it's like a pumpkin patch out there. If you walk in too deep, it's public land, and I can see that. I tried to tell him, yeah, I got the Onyx app. I can see the boundaries. I ain't trespassing anywhere or anything, because he had said that I was trespassing. And later on, in this story, he'll go on to say that I was trespassing, and Joe will say I was trespassing because I got down from the stand. And if you're out there hunting and you agree to hunt semi-guided hunts, you're going to be walking around. You don't tell people that you're trespassing if you get out of the stand. And then later on, Joe tells me that he told me that numerous times, and I was like, no one would ever hunt with you guys if you told them that if you don't hunt in this one spot and you get down from that stand, then you're considered trespassing. No one would hunt with you guys or give you money, nothing at all. Never said that. So, but at this point, I haven't got to that part yet. But at this point, I'm just dealing with Chris yelling at me and cussing at me to get out of there. And he tells me if I'm still there by the time he gets back, he's obviously gonna beat out of me. And so I just walk out of there and get to the truck and pop out my primer out of my muzzle loader and drive up that gravel road to the front where the highway is at, and I park alongside of it in this little like parking area of an abandoned. I don't know if it was an old bank or some small building there, but when I'm on my way out, I see a guy about where that kid was earlier that came with Chris, where and he's like working on something, and this guy is in a white truck, and that kid was in a silver truck. So, and Chris was telling me how dangerous it was for me walking around back there, and that there could be a hunting accident and all that stuff, and that I'm kicked out now or whatever. And I was like, that don't make sense. We all got hunter orange on. You're not making sense. Everybody's out there to hunt. We're hunting. This is how it works. But he kept making that a point about there going to be a hunting accident with me out there. So, and it was fishy that I seen that kid messing around where I was hunting at with a 4-wheeler. So, at that point, I think he's got these guys in a pickup truck to try to, like he said, do something great bodily harm against me and make it look like it was a hunting accident. Because that's basically what he had just implied to me. But I don't see that kid's truck there anymore. Instead, I'm driving up, and when we first met up at the beginning of the lot, is this guy in a white truck, and I drive by him, and I park, and I'm trying to find a police department number to call and a DNR officer to call. I didn't know how it worked in Maryland, so I was looking up conservation officers, and they don't have such a word in Maryland. It's called DNR police officers, which I guess I should have looked into that stuff before I ever got, but you wouldn't think stuff like this would happen where you would need to know that. Like you figure outfitter would cover all incidents like that. You wouldn't think your outfitter would be giving you the incidents that would make you need that to happen. So I look up from my phone, and this guy now is parked bumper and bumper to me with his white truck. He drove all the way up to me, and he gets out, and he comes up to my window, and he's threatening that if I don't, he's telling me I'm trespassing, and that he's going to call the police on me. And I think this guy is a goon that Chris just brought out there to harass me, and I'm fed up with it. So I tell him, you know what, I'm calling the cops, because I was just going to try the DNR, get a DNR police out there, but now it's to a point you're in my window harassing me face to face. He's telling me all types of stuff, and I'm not really listening to it. He's telling me, I'm sick of you guys going back there with your pickup trucks and everything. I got these no trespassing signs up everywhere. I'm like, I never even seen a no trespassing sign. And he's got them really low to the ground. He points them out to me. I never even noticed that I even drove by these things. So I'm not trying to be rude with him. He's getting rude with me. Because you always, in any situation, even when you know people are being wrong to you, you always convey calm. And that's one of the things they teach you when you're going to be a cop, is you just convey calm in any situation. The more crazy the situation is, the more you convey calm, because they will try to, once you try to assert yourself in any way, the person who's disrespecting you will try to just do it more. So you just keep one tone, and they will usually start having wheels turn in their brain that maybe I'm the one acting a little unreasonable in this situation. Some people aren't that way, though, which you find out Chris is one of those people. He just gets to be more of a lunatic about things. So I get that guy. I hope this is still recording. So I get that get that guy to calm down, basically, because I'm talking on the cops or phone with the cops now, and I don't. They're asking me a location, and I'm just giving them a like the highway's name, and then what I see, like a gas station that's near it, and I know where I'm at. Like I was like, I could send you, like I could have sent him a GPS pin or told him coordinates, but it just doesn't have a physical address there, and so I asked the guy who's outside my window, "What's the address here?" And he tells me what the place is called. So then I tell the cops, and then I start explaining everything that's happened to me, all the way up to this guy's outside my truck right now, threatening to get me arrested for trespassing when I paid a lot of money to be here right now. It don't make any sense. Then the guy is like, "Hold on, wait a minute," and he starts figuring out, because I mentioned Chris and all that and hunting back there. He ends up being the landowner, and he had no idea. He was mad because and putting up no trespassing signs all around his property because he's seen more and more people with pickup trucks at all times of day out there. So that gives me the feeling that they're also having people hunt in the morning as well, because he's saying that it's just at any time, you know, in the morning when he goes out there, and in the evening, all these trucks always coming in and out. So he's leasing this property to Chris. Chris is using it for DOA outfitters. The landowner has no idea that they're running an operation off his property. So when he finds out what Chris has done with me, I get off the phone with cops, and he's like, "Let's just work this out here. You know, I feel bad that they do that to you, and you come all this way." So he shows me around the lot, the front part where Chris said the deer come from, and there's no pond there, but there's a lot of deer sign around there. Some of it's whitetail deer, and then some of it you can see it's obviously Sika deer. So it's like there's a little bit of both there, but so I'm still on my hunting stuff. He shows me around. I get on top of this berm. He says that he used to have a kid that hunt out there, would get on top of this hill, and he'd usually get a deer off the top of there every time he went out around dusk. The deer move right at last light, basically. So it's like, okay, so I go out there. I'm sitting on that hill. I decide to get a hold of, because Chris was also texting me. He was like, between him calling and threatening me, he then was texting me and stuff, saying that I can't be out there on no, like, if I'm used to hunting on a bucket or however I do it in Indiana or where I'm from. He said, like, wherever you're from, that's not how we do it here. But that is how you guys do it. That's what you said on your website, that you can try to. All I was doing was hunting and trying to get a deer, and I would have got a deer if they did not kick me out. I would have been the only one to get a Sika deer out of that place. But they kicked me out, and they should have just let me get my Sika deer and get out of there, head back home, you know. And they stopped me from doing it. So now I got the landowner permission to hunt the front part where he said that the Sika deer come from this pond. The pond doesn't exist. I walk out there, and it's just a bunch of wood chips on the ground. It's like bark chips from trees. So I'm sitting on that berm. Alright, so that spot I was hunting in, 40 yards from where we parked at. Anyway, I got down from there and went about 80 yards in, found some deer crap, and just sat on it, just sat there. And then I got a call from the guy after I was sitting there for a couple minutes, cussing at me, saying he's gonna kick my ass, that I need to get out of the woods because he told me to not get out of the tree stand. And I paid $1,500 to hunt out here. And so I'm like confused. I was like, I paid to hunt here. You didn't tell me not to stay in that stand. Anyway, so he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass if you don't get off my property. So I'm leaving. I'm like, this is crazy. This whole trip has been crazy, very bad. So I leave, I go up to the road, and I'm reading the rest of this text he's sending me, and trying to look up Maryland Conservation Officer number to get a hold of him about this guy threatening to kick my ass because I paid to hunt his property and he didn't like that I was hunting it. It was so strange. Then this guy comes up, parks his truck right next to mine, nose to nose, and starts yelling at me and threatening me and telling me to get off his property. I'm like, who are you? I don't even know what's going on. It's not even the same guy who was yelling at me on the phone. Come out. That's the actual property owner of this place. That guy, who's supposedly running an outfitter business, is buddies with people who have leases on property, and then they let people hunt that property, and then the actual landowner did not know that that's what was going on. He asked me, who's back there? Why are you all back there? All kinds. So then he gave me written permission to hunt the part that he isn't leasing to that other guy. So that, I guess it's kind of working out, because the deer that I'm hunting, or in that spot, what I was supposed to be hunting, were supposed to come from this area anyway. And I walk out here and there's a bunch of tracks. The landowner drove me around, and there's a bunch of tracks all over the place. Like from 0 yards and then suddenly like 100 yards. So is that going to be close or far away, I guess, if one comes up. It's really thick and there's no tree stand here. I'm just sitting on I don't know what this is, some type of berm thing, old shooting range. I'm looking down over this area. It's all thick, no shooting lanes, nothing. It's just a section that nobody uses. Alright. So I'm sitting on that berm. I get a hold of Joe and say, hey, man, you got any other hunting spots? Chris doesn't want me hunting out here because he didn't like that I was I went hunting on the ground near the tree stand, because the deer were moving around the back side of it, and it doesn't make sense to me, but he said I can't hunt here no more. And he's like, well, Chris has texted me a little bit, and I didn't know what to make of it, so I'll just get a hold of him real quick and get back with you. I'm like, okay, thanks. And he gets back with me, and he says, unfortunately, you got to come get your stuff out of Lodge, and I'm not going to provide any more outfitter services at all. I was like, so there's no other place that you can just put me in, because I already paid full price for this, and Chris is obviously in the wrong here. And he's like, well, I got to look into it. I was like, okay, well, the landowner gave me permission. Chris is leasing that land back there, and the landowner didn't know. And I had to talk with the landowner, and he thought what Chris did was so wrong. He gave me permission to hunt the front part. So whatever, if you want to be like that. And then so he's like, when can you get here to pick up your stuff? And I was like, well, it's like a 20-minute drive. He knows where we're at and how long it would take me to drive there. So I go there and I pick up my stuff and I tell him to give me back my money. And he's like, well, I don't know about that. I was like, you need to give me back my money. Give me back my money. Give me back my money. I was about ready to blow up. And I try to always convey calm, because when I get really mad, there ain't nobody who can stop me. So I'm about to that point, and I'm not trying to be there. He just needs to give me my money so I can go at this point, because they blew my Sika hunt when I would have got a Sika deer. And they made me pay for them to kick me out of hunting. It doesn't make any sense. So he tells me he's got to look into it better. And I reiterate, the landowner gave me permission to hunt out there. And he's like, well, as long as you don't go in the back part there. I was like, I won't, but I'm going to be out there. He's like, that's okay with me. And then, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to tell everybody. I was like, I got a YouTube channel. I'm going to tell everybody the truth about you. And he's like, that's all I ask, is that you tell the truth. So the truth is, he tells me he's going to look into it, and he's going to get back with me. And it's been over a year now, and I have not heard imagine that, haven't heard one word from Joe Austin of DOA Outfitters about my refund. And then he goes as far as to ask me at that point for the landowner's number so he can talk to him. So this part of the video I'll show where I was hunting right in this area. As soon as I sat down, we were all parked up in this parking area, getting dressed, and then he walks straight down along this pole barn, and then the trail curves around in and then stops. So it's only like 40 yards in the woods, if that. And there's a bait pile right in front of it. I get on, that was on Google, so I get on the Onyx app. This is all public land behind it. So I take a screenshot. I think this is the first screenshot with Onyx I take. And they're showing me. But it also tells me where I'm at. So I'm in that tree stand, and I'm staying in this area. I'm not crossing no boundaries. So here's another one zoomed in where I'm at. This is the pond thing that he thinks exists, but it don't exist there. It was used like as a drainage or something. It's not an actual pond. It's, at that time, it's just piles of bark, wood chips that are all bark, and they're just laying across that area all flat. And I end up getting permission to hunt that side from the landowner who owns everything that's there. So I end up back here when I was right here, and I'll do some little drawings to explain why I did this. And he tries to say this is why I got kicked out. Trying to do a drawing and it just went black screen on me. What the hell? So I'll do the color red. Well, first I'll do orange or blue. I'll do a blue dot. Since there's a blue dot there, I'll do, that's where it was right here. And then I'll do orange for where I walked. So I got down, since he said the deer come from this pond, which I can't see because there's this long pole barn in the way, because I'm literally just inside. This is a whole long like yard right here, and I'm just inside the woods, 40 yards. So he said the deer come walking through like this. And so I get down, and it's a low spot. I get down and I start doing a zigzag pattern, seeing if there's any deer sign. And I go up to right here, and this whole thing is a pole barn. I stop because the property line's over here, and I'm looking at where this pond is, and it's not there. I'm standing in this low water. It's not very deep. And like, I'm just wearing muck boots, and I look inside that pole barn. Down at the other end up here, there's that kid messing around with like a four-wheeler or something in it, and looks right at me, I figure. And I think this is how he knows I was walking around down from my stand, because then they start looking. But why it was even up in there, I don't know why. But so the wind is blowing this way, and there's no deer tracks up in this spot. So I go and sit back down in that tree stand. And I had, when I was zigzagging back and forth like this, looking up in this direction, and I can see this area is pretty beat down with tracks. And it's going out and around this way. So you're having deer just come straight through this stuff and come up this way. I can also tell there's spots in here like this that are coming straight in, and there's deer poop sitting right there. So, and this is all like bedding area. So they're creating, they have the wind blowing in this way, and they know there's bait right here. So they're going around it and waiting. They're through this thick stuff so you can't see them, and they're using all their senses to their advantage because they want that bait. And I can see some come walking right up like this to it, and then mainly all of them keep going around like through this woods away from that area. So they're getting really used to a lot of pressure and a lot of people parked up in that area. And they want the bait though, so they're gonna play the wind where they can wind you, they can smell everything that's up in this area and where this bait pile is at, and they can wait until dark to go up there. So that's all I did, is I just sat down right there where all these trails come together and intersect, and I just sit there. And that's called hunting, and that's what I was there to do. I was not walking around the woods. I was still hunting over my bait pile area, but I was doing it in a more efficient way. And if you would have left me alone, I would have been the only one to get a Sika deer out of there that day, or at all, turns out. And I would have been on my way, and they wouldn't have had to deal with me. And then instead, they ended up having to deal with me the rest of the time, the rest of the muzzleloader season. Okay, so I went back out hunting on that berm or pile of dirt or whatever it is. Contacted Joe to see if there's some other place, because Chris just isn't acting right. Was acting like a lunatic and threatening me over nothing, over me hunting a spot that he put me in, basically. And then Joe tells me I got to come now and get all my stuff because he's got to kick me out depending on investigation. And what it is, he needs me out of there because if I show back up at that lodge after everybody's done with their hunt, I'm going to tell everybody what Chris did to me. And everybody's going to lose their mind thinking that is the most bizarre effing stuff that an outfitter service could do. So he needs me out of there. It's not really about if I was in the right or if I was in the wrong. He can't let these other hunters find out. But I already got one of the guy's phone numbers before we left to give him just to share or what Chris had texted me, just to get everybody on the same page, so I can get in touch with them. So I'm telling him, give me back my money, and he's not giving me back my money. He tells me when I show up, I had to drive 20 minutes back there. It was really crazy. I just sat down to hunt again, and now they're forcing me not hunt again. So I let him know on that phone conversation when he told me, unfortunately, he's going to end outfitter service for me, and I can't have the lodging there, and I need to come pick my stuff up right now. Asked me how far away I was, and he knows how far it was. That I was like 20 minutes away, and because he knows where we were hunting at. So I go there and tell him, give me back my money, and getting really mad with him. He just keeps like, oh, I can't give you back a full deposit, and I can only whatever do that if I figure out what really happened. And I tell him what really happened, and the landowner even gave me permission to hunt. So I reiterate in person now that the landowner gave me permission to hunt the front part because of what Chris did to me, that he felt bad about what happened and that he did me that way. So you know that Chris was in the wrong and that you guys have no right to be doing this to me right now. And he just didn't care. He acted like this was a way to finally get rid of me. And I think it was because how I think he had Chris pull me to the side and send me down there to do something in an area that no one else was hunting. He sent everybody out on the other side, complete opposite side of the woods, and then me in an easy accessible site that's up close towards the vehicles. And Chris kept mentioning to me about me being could potentially be involved in a hunting accident, and I looked over and I seen that kid in the pole barn. So I think that they were planning on doing something, probably driving by and saying that I pointed a gun at him or was or hunting unsafe at the least, or staging me to get messed up and then say it was a hunting accident. There's definitely, because Chris made a point to keep bringing up that I was going to be in a hunting accident essentially by being out there, and that so I needed to leave. So they were just trying to figure out any way to get rid of me, to the point they pull me off to the side and have this kid still lurking around, but only in the area where I'm hunting. It is very suspicious. So now I'm stranded out there. I have to park and camp out, sleep in my truck now, because I have enough money to get back home and food and stuff like that. But my lodging I thought I had already paid for. So then I have an extra few $100s that I reserved, but it's not supposed to be my budget money. It's supposed to be my emergency money if I break down or something, because my truck is complete a POS that I drove out there. I don't even know how it made it there, or if it would make it back. So I even packed up camping supplies if I needed to stay overnight in my truck. If I got stranded on the side of the road all through the night for like 10 hours, I had a little propane buddy heater in there, sleeping bag and stuff like that, just in case. So that ended up working out, that I had everything to camp out of my truck, because I'm not going to pay for a hotel, because the nearest one that was like right next to the spot, it was very cheap, but it was very shady, got super, super bad Google reviews. And I started looking at Google reviews more in that instance, just because what happened to me with DOA Outfitters. I started trying to look into it a little better. And my phone and everything, my search engines are always using Bing and not Google. So when I Bing searches stuff, not as much was coming up about them as Google search. And I wish I would have paid more attention to Google searches. But so now I'm back up on my truck, done with the night hunt. Had all my gear on me in my truck that I packed up, and had to go back to that garage. And I figure it's not such a bad spot. How the landowner said the deer moved through there, it seemed so. Like, I ran into 3 white-tailed deer getting off that berm. So I figure I was going to look up public land to hunt, and I figure now, since he didn't give me my money back, and they already messed the other people out of hunting mornings, and now I'm allowed to hunt mornings on private land. I could probably get my own bait and bait these deer, since I know there's deer in the area, that there's Sika deer in the area. I found a Sika jawbone when I was out there looking, so it's like there's definitely some out there. Don't know. The density seems mainly to be whitetail though, so I don't know if I will get one, but I'll shoot a whitetail and just leave too. For at that moment, I didn't care. And I had a jet sled, like I said. I think I might have been in the footage that didn't record. I had a jet sled just in case. I had waders just in case. We talked about, before we all went out there to hunt, we talked about bringing a tree stand, a cell climber, and we were told no. And one person said they asked about waders, and they said no, we don't need waders. And I was like, well, I didn't ask that, but I did bring mine because he said not to bring it. I brought my waders and a leafy suit, and then I brought a jet sled to just throw everything in when I'm walking through a swamp or whatever, and then I get a deer, I can put it in there and cool it down, pack it in with ice. And I worked at an RV factory in town where I live, and some guy had bought some cutouts that are foam. They make those side panel walls out of foam, and so I bought some from that guy because he had some on sale. So I could ratchet strap it to the top of the jet sled a deer in there and ice, and it'd be like a big cooler, and like a Yeti cooler basically, but probably better. So I had a couple of those boards in there, and I cut one of these foam boards down. I brought everything. Like I even brought uh, a a battery operated sawzall because I figured I'd cut up a deer, if I needed to. Uh, just make it as easy as possible on me. I just brought all this stuff that I could pack in that little truck. So I sawzall a piece out to make it fit to make a little bed in the back of this S10. So I'm sleeping on this board the first night there, and it hurt because I just had this thin sleeping blanket, and it was on a hard board. Okay, this is my S10 pickup truck. I just got done hunting on this spot that guy told me about, but I had brought this piece of foam. It's a fiberglass panel with foam in it, and I bought a few of these from a guy down the street to make a deer hunting blind that like ice shanty that's like really well insulated for brutally cold weather. I brought one of them to put on top. I don't know if you can see, but the jet sled. If I got a deer, I was gonna put him in the jet sled, put this panel on top, and ratchet strap it down with a bunch of ice bags in it so it's cold. But it actually works good as a bed. Now what I had to do was trim it to size a little bit, and I had brought a sawzall. So I took this thing and I cut a few inches off. There's the part I trimmed out sitting along that, but now it makes a bed because I got kicked out of the lodge because I hunted on the deer poop. But so the next morning, I'm waking up in the morning now, and I'm I'm going out. I gotta see this recording. This thing shuts off sometimes. No, we're still good. So I'm going out in the morning, and well, I'm waking up. I got my alarm set, and I let it keep going off because the temperature drop was unreal. So we were going from the heat index being like 82 degrees, and then it was 50 something at nighttime. And so that you're not used to it, you get cold, even though it's not that cold. But when your body doesn't acclimate to that yet, it's a lot colder when you're beaten down in sunlight for a day, you know. But so I put it on snooze or whatever, and it goes off again. So I figure I better wake up and get out there. And then I hear a bunch of cars driving by me back to where I was hunting the day before with the rest of the hunters. Not the same vehicles as before. So I was like, man, he did double book us. He had people hunting in the morning. He has us pay for full days of hunt, a full muzzleloader season. We're only hunting half the muzzleloader season. We're only hunting in the evenings, afternoons, and he's has these people out in the morning. Though he told us no one should go there in the morning. So it was just a big scam to get more money from us and not do as little work as possible, and get as many people in there as possible to keep making as much money as possible. It's a huge scam. So we all just got scammed in that way, and I'm like, like I'm glad I'm not one of them guys. And then, so I go out and I'm hunting in the morning, and all I see is a cat. And I did a mew. I had a call on me that I bought for the trip, and I was making this mew call or whatever, and I heard mewing back, and it ended up being a cat. I called in a cat, so I was like, man, this is ridiculous. But I made up my mind to stay out there already and not try to find public land and stuff because I want people to see that there's someone hunting the front part and that these people are up to no good. Like get them to question why is he hunting the front part and not back there? Why isn't he in the lodge anymore? But he's still hunting out there, you know? And so, come to find out, at this point, I have made DOA outfitters aware that I got permission to hunt in that front part. And I told Joe Austin twice, once over the phone and once in person. And he wanted to see my permission slip, wanted to see the phone number of the guy, and that was he should have had the phone number of the guy who owns all that property, and he didn't. That's how shady his business is. So I get down, I go up to the truck, and I end up going to Walmart, buying a self climber, and putting that together. So I put that thing together, and then the landowner comes up to me because he's doing some work out there, and he knows about the Onyx Act because he had been through the conversation with me about everything that happened, and he's got a property marker that he just seen, but it's not where he thought his property ended. So go and look at it to see if it's actually his property or not. And it was just a marker that, like a utility marker or whatever, that was big stake though, pounded into the ground forever ago. And so he goes about doing his stuff. I go out, put up that tree stand real quick, and then I come back up to eat lunch, and I got my shirt off because I'm getting ready to put on my hunting shirt to go out there. So I'm spraying down all my hunting clothes with scent killer, and then that's about the time I'm trying to get out there before the evening hunters go out, because the deer the night before, right at dusk, moved in front around the front part of where everybody was parked back there hunting, and went to me. So these deer know their way around. They're not using the woods much. The majority of them, they're going around the side of the woods. And so I'm trying to use that to my benefit, that when they go into that woods, I'll probably end up having deer walk by me. And so I'm trying to get out there before everybody shows up for the evening hunt now. And I let one of the guys know. I sent him a text. It was the only number I had for the groups of people that were hunting out there still, that Joe's having those people hunt in the morning, different groups of people hunting in the morning. And, he double booked it. Okay. So we're at me getting, I did a morning hunt, and I called in a cat with a mew call that was supposed to be for a hind. Then what I didn't anticipate was that a guy, Chris, he comes back out driving down that road. I'm parked right off of it next to a semi trailer, and because I'm parked next to it, they can literally drive right by me and barely notice it for some reason. That little beat up truck blended right in with that stuff, I guess. So he finally sees me walking around or spraying stuff, and he sees this box that had a self climber in it, and he pulls off onto the property I'm hunting on now. He pulls off that road, that gravel road, onto the property I'm hunting, parks right at the bumper of my truck, and is like, "What do you think you're doing here? You're not allowed to hunt out here." you don't have permission to be out here. You need to get out of here right now before I call the police. And I was like, I do have permission to be out here. He's like, no, you don't. All this is leased. And he starts getting really loud and angry. And I just keep doing what I'm doing. And he's like, you're not going out there hunting. You're staying right there. You're staying put. I'm like, I got permission to hunt out there, so I'm going hunting out there. And then he's like, he says the landowner's name. He's like, just his first name. He gave you permission? I'm like, yeah, he gave me permission. I was like, he didn't tell you? And but then I really didn't think he would. It's, Joe Austin should have told him when I told Joe Austin from DOA. So now he's harassing me for trying to hunt. He sees I'm trying to go out there and hunt, and he tells me, stop, you're not going out there to hunt. I'm calling the cops on you, and I'm calling the landowner, and I say, okay. He's like, so what do you want me to do? You want me to call the police? I was like, you do what you want. So then he's like, you just wait right there a minute while I figure this out. And he drives away, and I'm like, what the F? Why do I gotta keep dealing with this idiot? But I knew this would pee him off. That's why I was still there. And so I wait for him to come back, and because he pulls around to that road and parks basically, just drives down a little bit and parks before the area where everybody's hunting back there, or going to be hunting soon again. And then he turns around and comes back up to me. I don't say anything to him. He just starts saying, look, buddy, I was just threatening you. I had to get you out of there. I had to threaten to bodily harm to you and all that to get you out of those woods back there. And I was like, what the? I didn't even bring this up with them. I'm already over that stuff. I'm playing my own mind games with these people now by just being there still without them being able to touch me. That's where I'm at. And he's still hung up on this, what happened yesterday. And so I let him talk, and I don't say anything. And then so he's telling me that I kicked myself out. And I was like, how's that? He's like, because you got down and walking around, so you kicked yourself out. So now he's saying that, like Joe did when I went to pick up my stuff, that I, just by getting out of that tree stand, I was trespassing. And because I was telling him that you need to give me my money back, and he said that, well, I was trespassing. I was like, no, I had an Onyx app. I knew exactly all the boundary lines. They don't know what Onyx app is. I got the footage of where I was. I screenshot where I was. You can see me where I was. Maybe they don't know where that's at, but it shows exactly where I was, and I never went anywhere but where I was hunting at, the property that told me to hunt. So I got that as evidence, and that's just their word. They're making up that I was trespassing. And Joe said the day before when I picked up my stuff that I told you numerous times that you had to stay in your train. He never talked to us about nothing. And no one is ever going to be hunting out there if you say you need to give me $1,500 and be in this stand. If you get down, you're considered trespassing. No one would hunt there. It was never said. Now Chris is saying that to me in this moment, that I kicked myself out by getting out of that tree stand. He never told me to stay in that tree stand. He said he'd come back to pick us up at 7:20. And that was it, because he didn't like me wanting somewhere else to be and trying to convince me just to stay there. And I said I'd try it out. I didn't say, okay, I'll hunt in this tree stand. I said I'd try it. And I said that I don't want to hunt it, and I don't want to hunt there. That's what I said. So I was in the right on everything I did, and they were still in the wrong. He's trying to justify it. And the reason why he's bringing this up, because he called the landowner to see if I had permission. He come back and said, well, you're right, but I had to say all that stuff to get you out there. He's like, yeah, you're right, you do have permission. I was like, I already know that. You don't need to tell me that. Then he starts talking again. I pull out my camera because he's getting a little agitated, saying it was my fault that I got kicked out. And as he's getting more aggressive. He's talking. So I pull out the camera, and he starts to calm down again. He's like, I don't care if you're recording me. He acts like a complete different person. And he's like, well, where's your tree stand? He asked me where my tree stand is, and I knew he would. So in the video, you see me tell him, and you might watch it and think, why the hell would you do that? But it's because I want him to know that from my tree stand I can see my truck, and from my truck I can see my tree stand. And that is going to bug him because he wants to do something. So I give him this look when he asks me where the tree stand is. Like, I think he's up to something. I give him that look like, I think you're up to something. That's why you want to know. He's like, I'm not going to do anything. It's just for safety reasons. So I know where you're at and where my hunter's at. So he keeps bringing up this like hunting incident. He keeps bringing up hunting accidents could happen, specifically towards me, geared towards me. And if you remember how I saw that kid up there in that shed the day before, and he knew they were spying on me to know I was out of my tree stand, and somehow it mattered. It was of importance, and then they had to use that as a reason to kick me out. That they were going to do something else that would have led me to not being out there that day that I was hunting anyway. So I already know he's up to something. I put that tree stand where I could see my truck. After the landowner, I showed him his property line. I drove out there, put the tree, because the landowner was driving around his property, and the deer, I knew they're used to these people driving around, or that time of day. So I drove out there, put the tree stand up, and then drove back up to where I was parked and ate my lunch, and then started getting ready. And then Chris showed up, and I was trying to get my stuff on at that moment to go out hunting, and he stops me. This is called hunter harassment. When you see somebody trying to hunt or go and hunt, and you prevent them from hunting and telling them you're going to call the cops on them, threaten them, and say it's all leased and I have no right to be there, that is harassing somebody who is hunting. That's hunter harassment. So DOA at this point has tried to commit a check fraud on me. They committed a scam on making us pay double for the amount of time we were hunting, by telling us we were hunting there for the muzzleloader season, and then took our money that we paid to hunt it all, and then said we're only hunting half days. We were all expecting to hunt the full hunting days of the rest of the muzzleloader season. Because that's what we paid to do. Then he changed it, but still took our money, or full amount. He took our full amount and then he changed it. That's a scam. Then he let people hunt there in the morning to double book the place, and told them the same thing, that they were the only ones hunting out there. So I go out to my tree stand, and as soon as I get, Chris leaves. He goes off up back towards the highway. I walk out to my tree stand. As soon as I climb up in the tree stand, he asked me all kinds of stuff about my tree stand too. Why was it a self-climber? And that was the only thing they had. They didn't have any hang-on stands there. All of it's pine trees, and I put it in a little dead pine tree. So I just used my hands to climb up. I'm strong. I don't look strong. I look like a little skinny guy, but I can just use my hands to climb. I don't need my feet. So I climb up in this tree, and I see him, and I got to get in my bag, and he's looking right at me. I'm getting in my bag to get out my video camera to zoom in on him. I want to see what he's doing. I want to see his face. I can zoom in on his face if I wanted to. I'm about 300 something yards away. But anyway, so he starts to slowly roll on by my truck once he sees that I'm up in that tree and looking that way. But then he goes up and he parks next to junk. There's like old or like, I don't know, it's like a dozer or, just old equipment. And he's parked right next to it, trying to hide from me. But I'm up in a tree. It's not like I'm on the ground, and if you hide behind something, I can see down on you. I can see him. So I'm recording him still, and it was funny looking back at this stuff. But he was definitely up to something. He was checking out to see if I could see him from the tree stand, see where my tree stand's at. It's none of his business. But this is the effect I wanted on these people, and it was working. So he starts texting me like crazy. He's getting pretty mad.
So I got permission to hunt over here. The guy in the blue truck kicked me out of hunting over there because I sat on the ground and not up in a tree stand. So the person who actually owns all this property told me that I could hunt this part of it if that guy's being that way. But that guy just showed up and told me to get out of here again, tried kicking me out again.
I talked to Mike, and you're right. He said you can stay in the lumber yard. But where
Right.
are you going to put a climber up in the lumber yard?
I already got it up there.
I mean, where is it so I know where you're going to be at? It's just a safety issue. I'm not mad with you. I just had to get you out of the woods when people seen you walking around yesterday. I'm not mad with you. You can video me all you want to. I don't care.
I can't see it from right.
The guys just don't want you walking under the stand and up like you did yesterday.
There's a hill. See that hill over there? It's like a berm made out of railroad ties. There's a littler hill next to it, and the tree stands in a dead tree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool. I hope you kill deer, but where I'm telling you is just about right. If you go down beach ground, it's a really good spot down. You get down by the swamp.
Well, it's kind of late for me to, get on that.
I'm here to help you. You just got to understand, we stand hunt. You just cannot go walking by people.
Well, I didn't, I wasn't really clear about that, but.
Yeah, well, that's why we told you, and that's why I told everybody. As long as you're out of the way, I don't care. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. So, that's why I would not just send you down there to trust me. You have to trust me every once in a while.
Were you still getting those guys from the lodge, or were they going
They're
somewhere?
coming tonight, but I don't know. That's what I say. If you can, please do not walk around.
No, yeah.
You're all good. Everything's all set. And I know you like to. That's why I told you about that down there. I assume that you like to walk around and call a little bit. That's a perfect place to do it. Tomorrow won't be no kind of a day to go down there because it's Saturday. Maybe a bunch of people there.
Right. All right.
You got to understand my point, man. You can turn that on, off, whatever. You just can't walk by people. It's dangerous. Even one little piece of orange, you don't know these guys. I mean, they think you're a goddamn deer. I got to get mad when you say you'll come out. That's the only reason why.
Okay. Wacko. Well, they're having everybody. Started our through pretty quick, but everybody from yesterday is hunting. But yeah, people just drove by. We're all, I guess, hunting in a line from each other yesterday, which came off when I was sitting on the ground about 80 yards from a tree stand. And he still thinks he told me that I have to stay up in the tree stand and that's the rules, otherwise I'm kicked out. And that was never ever said to me. I paid $1,500 to hunt, so I thought I could hunt. I pulled up the Onyx when I realized my spot was right next to where we parked, because if you're hunting right above your truck, or a row of trucks, there's few people that are back there. The deer are going to go around that as much as possible. And let's say I'm up there hunting and a guy decides to go back to his truck and I'm hunting by the trucks. If a deer even did walk by, sure enough, it's not going to. So hunting near vehicles when other people may go back to those vehicles at any time for any given reason, just is going to ruin your hunt. You don't do that. So I just walked in a little bit further and sat down where I saw a deer sign. Didn't think it was a problem. Got kicked out because they wanted to screw up my day. I get up in my tree stand, now that guy's just sitting in front of the property. There's my truck way over there. He's trying to f*** up my hunting. This is supposed to be that DOA outfitter service and their guide Chris acting like a f***ing crazy maniac. Crazy. Anyway.
I get a message from the guy from the hunting group asking for Chris's number. So So I give him Chris's number, and I don't know what's going on, but that I know if they're wanting Chris's number, something probably happened. So I had heard him shooting the muzzleloader earlier too, so I figured it's something to do with that. So I give him Chris's number and all that. I wait till dark. I get down, didn't see anything. I heard something walk by me, but it's like so thick right there. There's a ditch that I am right on top of, and the landowner told me they'll walk right down that ditch and stuff, and I hear something walking right beside it, and but it's that dark, that's time to get down, so I wait till I can't hear it no more, and then I get down, go up to my truck, and get ready to hunt again in the morning. So I'm getting my stuff out in the morning to hunt, and those people in the trucks drive by me again. So I get up in my tree stand. There's a sound of gravel going. I parked right next to it and stuff. That woke me up before my alarm was set to go off in 2 minutes anyway. So I just got up, shut my alarm off before it went off, and I haven't recorded a bunch of footage of this. So that's why I'm talking about it, because when I got kicked out of Lodge, I couldn't charge my phone. That thing didn't have a charger in it. I went out and bought one at Walmart when I bought the tree stand to charge my phone, and I didn't have a way to charge my video camera or anything, but the battery lasts pretty good. So I go out there in the morning, and around 9:30 or something like that, I look out, and this red Tacoma is parked right in front of my truck, and it ain't the landowner's, and it ain't the landowner's brother's truck either. So I'm getting ready to get out my camcorder and record the guy, but he's just noticed my truck, and he's wondering what it's about, I guess. That's all I think about it at that time, is that he's finally realized there's somebody hunting out there, and he can see my orange hat if he looks out, see where that guy go who was in his truck. You see, we had to wear hunter's orange caps and stuff. So he pulls off, and I realize that's just one of the hunters that was morning hunting back there, and doesn't know what's going on, but trying to get everything sorted out in his mind, like what in the F is going on here. And then so I just get down. He already got down, and whatever they would have pushed to me would have came through, and it didn't. So I go to Walmart, and I buy a set of sticks. Now, Walmart was running out of, that local Walmart there in Maryland, they ran out of hang-on tree stands. So I had to buy a self-climber for $200, $260 or whatever. And I went back to just buy climbing sticks to set my tree stand in a better spot that's lower, more brush. Because from the tree stand I was in, it was my first time in that spot. I could see a lot really well, but then I didn't really have shooting lanes, like the brush below me. When a deer walks through, I can hear them if they come right directly under me, but I won't ever see them, and especially in the low light. And I thought that's what happened to me the night before, so I want to move it over where I can see my truck better, see the other hunters where they're driving in and driving out better. So I get these climbing sticks to put on this little dead tree, and I move over my setup, and lo and behold, when I go get the climbing sticks, they have hang-on stands that were $45 or whatever, which the day before they didn't. So I paid $260 and some odd cents for a tree, this self-climber, when I could have brought one. It's like, I could have brought mine, and he told me not to, and this guy he doesn't know he's me over in a lot of ways, just by everything he's said and done. And so that self-climber issue came up, and, I could have brought mine, but anyway, so I moved my stand over and all that, and I go back up to my truck to eat and all that, and it's about time for me to go back out again, and I text those guys to see what was up, and they said that, well, that night, the night before, they asked for Chris's number to get a hold of him, because they tried for hours to get a hold of Chris, and I let him know Chris was texting me that whole time like a lunatic, harassing me the whole time, that they were trying to get a hold of him. So I know that he was just getting drunk and getting mad that I was still out there. He was texting me a lot of stuff, and mostly was like, "Why go hunt Blackwater and stuff like that, some public land down the road and all this stuff?" But I'm not going to tell him, well, I'm just going to stay here to mess your guys' little hunting operation up, so people see me hunting in front of it and start thinking for themselves that you guys are a bunch of bogus BS. That's why I was there. So they're trying to get a hold of Chris because they need him, because he told them that if they get a deer, that they have to call him, they have to wait for him to drag it out and help with it, and they got to stay where that they can't follow it or whatever. And they can't get a hold of him, to the point though Chris is texting me like books, a novel. And so I gave him Chris' phone number, and they still couldn't get a hold of him at the time that Chris was still getting. So I don't know what Chris, he's like, gave up on life. He was trying to figure out how to get to me or get me out of there. He kept saying, "Why don't you go to these places?" The way I was set up was that I could see my truck from my tree stand and my tree stand from my truck. So he couldn't do anything there. And so that night, it turned out that those guys had, they were trying to get a hold of Chris, to the point they reached out to me, though I had nothing to do with DOA Outfitters anymore. I had text the next morning after my morning hunt. I had text the guy that had wanted Chris's number to ask him what happened, and it turned out they never got a hold of Chris to come out. They needed him to come out for a deer they had got that night, and then they ended up having Joe Austin from DOA Outfitters. He had to come out and help him with it, and all right. But then the next thing he says, I had texted him, and because I had time to see what was going on. It was the last day I was going to be there. The last hunt I was going to do was going to be in the evening, and they called me, and after I texted them, they just called me to tell me what happened out there. And so they had got this deer finally. They gutted it and everything, and they left a muzzleloader there. So they tried to get Chris or Joe to get the muzzleloader and stuff, and they wouldn't have it. They had no part of it. So they left the muzzleloader out there, and they asked Joe or Chris, well, Joe and Chris, if they could help them go get that muzzleloader and everything. And they wouldn't talk to him about it, basically blew them off about it. It's probably like not responsible. They don't want to be held responsible for them losing, their stuff or whatever, but they also really don't care. So they decide to themselves go out in the next morning. Since it was dark and everything, they decided, well, since Joe and Chris ain't gonna help us get that muzzleloader back, we'll go out there in the morning to get it. And they end up running to the other hunters that I had told them about. So, and those other hunters said that Chris is the one who had him out there and all that. Same scenario, but they were doing the morning instead of evening. So they figure out that they truly were being that they were being scammed out of their hunts, half their hunts, because he was getting more people's money to put in the same spot. So instead of letting you hunt there the whole time that you were supposed to hunt the whole time in the first place. So they found found out that what I said was true about the other hunters. So in the morning when I saw that red truck, like out there looking over and I thought it was another hunter trying to figure things out for himself. That was actually the case. That guy had talked to him because they show up to get the muzzleloaders, and then they end up running into the other hunting group that wasn't supposed to be. No one was supposed to be there. So they tell me that, and then they tell me that they go back to the Larage and confront Joe and Chris about that scam that just happened, and they deny it. They say those must have been trespassers. That they instantly start saying like what they said that I was trespassing. No, I had the right to hunt there and paid for the right to hunt there. You're not trespassing when you do that. But they can literally say anything they want, and they know it. So that's just like they deny that those hunters are there, and that they deny that those hunters are supposed to even be there. And I'm sure that group of hunters, if they knew that, they would really felt like they shouldn't be involved with using those people as an outfitter service anymore. But so I thought that was funny. But the guy, he was able to he got a white-tailed deer out of the back of there, which, you know, was the best outcome you could possibly ever have had, especially when we went there at that time. But that was pretty much it. I went out in the evening and hunted till dark. The strange thing, when I woke up in the morning, I had tracks all around my truck. Like while I was sleeping, there was tons of deer there because it was so hot during the day, and the ruts was starting to slowly pick up, and the nights were cooler. They were all over at night in that area, and I didn't see anything. I didn't even hear one. When I tried calling, all I had was a cat come in, and that was pretty much that. I came home and the rut was just starting here. Cold weather, cold front came through. Does were running around and everything. And so then I tried hunting out at my house. When firearm came in, I had a kid point a gun at me, not even realizing I was there for some reason, though I was wearing Hunter's Orange. But I was like, go figure, the way my hunting situations always end up aren't very good. But the next thing we're going to be going into is the Google reviews, and then Joe's award. Okay. 48 Google reviews, 3.7 stars. This first comment I see here from a week ago says, I visited with DOA midsummer so I could understand what a Sika hunt would be like. Joe explained how they hunt mostly tree stands and they only hunt afternoons to avoid scaring deer away from the feeders. That's a lie. Anyway, Joe's response is, thank you for the kind review. This is much appreciated. So this guy, I don't know if he's real or not, because he says he visited DOA midsummer. I visited with DOA midsummer so I could understand what a Sika hunt would be like. Okay. Joe explained how they hunt mostly tree stands and they only hunt afternoons to avoid scaring deer away. Here, this is a comment that he himself had somebody put, like he had somebody's friends would put this comment up there, or this guy is really gullible because he didn't. He's not having you hunt afternoons to avoid scaring deer away. It's because he's having people hunt in the morning, so he's saying that. There's one person who's commented on his Fox Red Lab puppies, giving him good reviews. So that's probably a real review because people like puppies and they're gonna give you 5 stars if you ask them to. Like, you know, oh, I love my puppy, my purebred puppy or whatever. So I wish there was a way to get just a hunting outfitter part Google reviews just on that, because now these are boosting these people who are using other thing like his dog breeding are also on his DOA outfitter service, giving him 5 stars. So his rating is actually quite lower from just the hunting aspect. And his rating's only 3.7. So imagine what it is if you take away these 5 stars from people buying puppies. A lot of people doing snow goose hunts. I don't know why people hunt geese. Likes to take people's money and then ghosts them. Be careful dealing with this crook. That's true. He tried to take my deposit, and that was good enough for him. He don't want to deal with me after that, but I was able to get through that stage. So he responds back to this guy. Interesting how people leave nasty reviews and have no clue who we are. The governor's office obviously thought much better of our organization by extending to us the title of Outdoor Recreational Sports Ambassador. So he doesn't even confirm or deny. He skirts around that part of if this guy is saying he scammed him out of money. Likes to take people's money and then ghosts them. Be careful dealing with this crook. So he doesn't even respond in his response from the owner. He doesn't even respond to that. He says, interesting how people leave nasty reviews. So he just says he thinks it's a nasty review. And he also says that they have no clue who we are. Obviously the guy didn't have a clue who you are, but I'm sure he's got a clue now. So I'm sure that's true that he doesn't know how you are, but he's got some clues. The governor's office obviously thought much better. So you're hiding behind an award that you were granted falsely, it looks like, and then you're justifying how you are by hiding behind this award to make it seem like you're a good person, when apparently they didn't give you their process of choosing you to get the award was probably monetary reasons. They probably saw that you generate a lot of money. They probably didn't see how you're getting that money is committing fraud on people. So this award is bogus, okay? And you're hiding behind this award. And then you're commenting on it, like using it as a shield in your response to reviews. You are a POS to do such a thing. Very dense, man. One guy says, do not book with these guys. Poor sportsmanship and encourage us to shoot over our limit. Hard to get a hold of and not friendly in the slightest bit. That's true. That was my experience. And everybody else that was there too. His response to this. Response from the owner. I can't imagine who this gentleman is. He always does that. He always denies, like, I don't know who you are. And we do not violate game laws by shooting over limit. Yeah, you probably violate them by doing other things, right? So he doesn't say that he violates the game laws. He just says, we don't violate game laws by shooting over the limit. Just call Joe if there was a problem with your hunt. FYI, I don't even know and then he says the guy's name. Just saying, I don't know you. That's his response.
Very dishonest outfitter. Just a little update for DOA response. I sent payment next day, UPS with a tracking number, and it was delivered to his front door, and he texted me saying he received payment and now is threatening with a lawsuit saying he never received payment. I believe, if nothing else, this just shows the owner's character. Do just a little bit of research before you contact this company or the owner. Your money is better spent anywhere else. And the response is, this guy hit the response from the owner, which is Joe Austin. This guy threatened us with a 1-star review if I didn't pay him. He turned us over to the Better Business Bureau complaining about a service we promised, which we did. Only problem, I can't refund money we never received. We guess this guy must not have checked to see if his check was cashed. Big mistake. I'm sure my attorney will write him a nice letter with a request of his presence in court at the lawsuit. It's just not proper behavior to slander a proper business like DOA Outfitters Incorporated. So you just threaten this guy a lawsuit in your response section for your reviews. How is that how would a proper business do that? You would send him a cease and desist order, and then you tell him it's a big mistake that he didn't check to see if the check was cashed or not. He sent you the check, and he had proof that he sent you the check. But now you know, because the situation with me, that I had to prove, I had to go get a tracked check and get charged for it. So I try to say that one time. So he learned from me that you had to go through this process with the bank to prove that it was cashed. And this guy, he just went through the process of confirming that the check was handed to him. So he is right in what he said, and Joe is wrong. He said in this, I'll find it. So his argument is, he said that he delivered it to Joe's front door, and Joe texted him saying he received payment. So he received the check. Then Joe is twisting a little bit by saying, I can't refund money we never received. We guess this guy must not have checked to see if his check was cashed. So he went from saying received to doesn't matter if it was received if it wasn't cashed. So he's kind of skirting a line there. And then he threatens a lawsuit. This guy can just screenshot this, and the lawyer that's defending him, if Joe actually did try suing, would just tear him apart. He would owe this guy money instantly. But even if the court awarded somebody that Joe scammed money to him that Joe has to pay, Joe still wouldn't pay. he wouldn't pay. Oh, this one's a little bit long. This one's about a snow goose hunt. He was, I'm going to paraphrase this. Was home for a great experience for a guided snow goose hunt, but it turns out Joe at DOA is the last guy you should call. Is unprofessional. He postponed the hunt due to rain. Then when a few days later it was sunny, and Joe said that the sunny conditions are not good for the snow geese, so we shouldn't expect much. Seems he just didn't want to deal with going out in the rain, even though that would have given us a much better chance. Paid $300, you'd think the guy would be better to his clients and give him a better chance at birds. Meanwhile, when we didn't have birds overhead, Joe was standing up, hardly even paying attention, had his dog running all through the decoys and around us, and even drove into the field when we had birds coming towards our group. I would not recommend DOA Outfitters to anyone. Take your money to a guide that actually cares about making the hunter have a good experience for the clients, or whatever, blah, blah. And the last part's actually good. It says, make good experience for the clients and not just his own comfort and profit. That is exactly what it is. You show up
or you give him a deposit, he goes back inside and sits on his butt, doesn't want to deal with you. Now, Joe's response to this is, no idea who this is, so I cannot respond properly. But in a review prior, he improperly threatened to sue somebody. I have a lawyer request their presence even at the lawsuit. That's not proper. No idea who this is, so I cannot respond properly. Very likely a so-called guide competitor. We don't charge $300 for a goose hunt either. Feel free to call us at any time to discuss your concerns. Dense. I sent an email to Joe this morning requesting info on a Sika deer hunt. Keep in mind on the website under contact info, it lists his email address. This guy sends me an email back, and here it is. If you don't do me justice and call, I'd rather not take you. I wish to only take gentlemen. Myself and my guides don't need the rude grief. End quote of what Joe's email was to him. And now he says, then after I send him an email back that I would take my money elsewhere, he accused me of being friends with some other guys that had left a bad review. Maybe you need to start being more of a gentleman and you wouldn't get bad reviews. And then Joe's response, surely not the complete story, but I'm sorry he took it that way. Now, this was 11 months ago. He was thinking he's part of the group of people that also arrived and did the hunt that made us all, realize that this is a scam. He's so paranoid about that. He's accusing these other people that he comes off wrong to being part of in that group that I was there at the same time as those people. I have not wrote a review on this yet. I'm going to write a review when my videos come out. So by the time you're seeing this, you should be able to see my review on DOA Outfitters Incorporated's Google reviews. Scamming way too many people. I wouldn't even believe these 5-star reviews. And then his response is, he is a liar. So, but that's true. These 5-star reviews, most of them look like people he has done business for years, so he feels more friendly with them, so he does a good job on part of them. And then the others are from people who buy dogs that shouldn't even be on his DOA Outfitters Incorporated for the hunting aspect anyways. If you separated those two, his Google review stars would be very low, probably like around 2. Alright, what an amazing snow goose hunt. Joe came through for our group. Over 100 birds, large group hunters. His lodge was rustic, comfortable. His lodge, okay, I think this is fake right off because his lodge was not rustic or comfortable. It was a lodge. It was a garage lodge. It was a garage that may look like that. That it was a lodge when it wasn't. All right. Took $600 for a deposit from a couple buddies of mine, and then later told them that then they had a COVID outbreak in their club, so they had to cancel their hunt with no refund. Awful hunter to hunter ethics and customer service crooks. His response is, it's not true. We will not discuss our group client personal business in such a setting. Which obviously he did take their money, and he's just saying that you guys can't prove it, basically. We're not going to talk about those matters. Those matters are personal. Zero integrity. Scammed group. Took the money and blocked phone numbers. Incredible behavior. We don't know this guy at all, but we will soon. Is that a threat?